lovely viewers, you are most welcome to our channel Poetry Online. In this video, we shall be discussing the detailed analysis of changes by Ama Aidoo. Kindly subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon to get updates on all our new videos. Once again, let us assure you of a very interesting discussion. Get ready for this lesson. Ama Aidoo is a female Ghanaian writer whose works are familiar to students all over the world. Her career dates back to when, as an undergraduate, she wrote her first play titled The Dilemma of a Ghost in 1964. She followed that with Anoa in 1970. Since then, she has published many novels, including Changes in 1991, volumes of poems and short stories, including An Angry Letter in January and Other Poems in 1992, The Girl Who Can in 1997. Her third collection of short stories is Diplomatic Pounds and Other Stories, published in 2012 by Ayubia. She also published No Sweetness Here and Other Stories. Her novel Changes is about everyday concerns relating to women, marriage, divorce, cultural issues, religion, and identity. In the novel, Ama Aidoo treats everyday subjects and issues with a unique perspective and a delicate style. The story unfolds in a unique style which shows Ama Aidoo's creativity as a novelist. Ama Aidoo's narrative and Changes is fragmented with a mixture of a character's inner thoughts, beliefs, and dialogues. This reflects the rich oral tradition of storytelling in Africa, making the novel interesting for lovers of novel. The author also makes good use of humor extensively in her narration. In her own unique, delicate but powerful style, she engages the readers through her choice of words, which includes a spicy mix of precise choice words, phrases, and proverbs, and a mixture of the local dialects. Changes is a very interesting novel, which discusses the situation of women, particularly the educated working class mother who has to combine her responsibilities as a wife, mother, and at the same time a professional or a worker. This novel gives a glimpse into the author's view of how women are regarded in the Ghanaian society and Africa at large. The story revolves around the lives of three women, Esisechi, Opokia, and Fusina, and the struggle they are faced with in their quest to balance the competing demands of being wives, mothers, and professionals. All three women, whose lives are held up for scrutiny in the novel, are educated professionals who, despite their level of education, cannot be said to be happy with life due to their husbands. One interesting thing about this novel is that the novelist does not hold any of the principal male characters in the novel to the admiration of the readers. She even went ahead to suggest that they are the cause of their wives' unhappiness. Thus, we can consider this novel a feminist novel. 1. Everything about novel talks about the challenges that women are faced with. The novel depicts the various ways educated African women is denied the happiness that comes with education due to their husband's refusal to change with the times. The novelist suggests that the primary reason for their dissatisfaction has to do with the relationship with their husbands and with the unequal roles imposed on them by tradition. However, the parlous third world economy in which they find themselves is also a factor. In a different kind of national economy, a senior civil servant like Esi will be able to afford a better car, and a midwife with Opokia's length of service will be able to finance a vehicle for herself. However, it is the domestic situation, predominantly the relationship with their husbands, which is the main cause of the woman's unhappiness. One could say that the men do not understand that they cannot continue to cling to the same patriarchal privileges they enjoyed in the past when their wives, owing to inadequate schooling or education, could only play the roles of wives and mothers. But now, times have changed, and women are taking up leading roles and positions in offices, schools, politics, and many more. So, men cannot continue to confine women in the kitchen. And these are the issues that are raised and changes by Ama Ata Edo. Thus, as far as the old woman, Nana, who is Ace's grandmother, is concerned, nothing has changed between men and women. And whether in a polygamous marriage or a monogamous one, women have always been sacrificial victims on the altar of men's egos. Men, she says, were the first gods of the universe, and they were devouring gods who, in order to fulfill themselves, needed to have women regularly sacrificed. Women, according to Nana, have had to deny their own potentials in order for men to accomplish their achievements. The old woman wonders if this unjust relationship will ever change and comes to a rather pessimistic conclusion that change can only come about as a result of a great thought and action, and she does not think that men in particular will ever bother to try. Therefore, we can describe changes as a feminist novel. It delves into the issues of womanhood, the pride in womanhood, and the challenges that women are faced with. The attitude of the husbands of these three main female characters bear out the old woman's belief. Oko, Ace's husband, is a headmaster of a high school, an enlightened man, but is unable to understand a wife who demands as much space and time to pursue her career ambitions as men always do. He wonders lugubriously if indeed his wife is an African woman and decides on one fateful morning to put her in a place to show her he is the boss by raping his wife. The rape serves as a pivotal moment in the life of AC, his wife. Outraged by the deed, she decides to call off or end the marriage. But just as significantly, she realizes that there is no expression in Fanti language or in any African language she knows of that has the term marital rape in it. She takes that to mean that women in the past did not recognize marital rape as an affront and a violation. Their bodies were readily available to their husbands, whether they themselves were willing or not. The author uses this incident of marital rape to show how far some women have come in the fight to gain control of their bodies. Opokia's husband, Kubi, in many ways is a conventional Ghanaian middle-class husband. Blessed with a wife with a very tolerant temperament, he gets comfortably carried away with the usual Ghanaian marital peccadilloes. He does not touch any housework. He always comes home late after work. He asks his wife to meet him at an agreed place and then forgets all about her. What kind of a husband would do that? He's not entirely without consideration for his wife. However, we are told that Kobe was quite sensitive to Opokia's moods. However, his wife, who does not qualify for a car loan from the government, finds it totally unreasonable that Kobe will not let her use his car for errands which are necessary for the family's well-being, preferring to keep the car parked in his allotted spot at his office. Challenged by his frustrated wife, he insists it is a question of ethics. What? Yes, it is a question of ethics. What ethics? It's common sense. What do you mean common sense? Are you abusing me? I collect my full maintenance allowance. Do you want me to let you drive every day to the market? Clearly, Kobe does not have any consideration for his wife to save her from the stress of going round Accra by public transport when she could be using his vehicle or his car. Ali, the charming husband of Husseina, the third of the novel's three educated wives, poses the most difficult challenges to his wife. His wife, Husseina, is a trained teacher who accompanies her husband to UK, where she is obliged to remain at home and look after their children, while the husband studies for a master's degree in economics and business administration. By the time they return home, he is much more educated than she is, and is soon earning enough money to make it unnecessary for her to return to the classroom as a teacher. To give her something to do, while allowing her time to take care of the children, Ali sets her up in a kiosk, from which she is rumored to be making more money than the market women in town. In the first place, Ali selfishly denies his wife, while they are in London, the chance to obtain more education than the teaching certificate she obtained in Ghana. The most painful blow he inflicts on her, however, is his decision to take a second wife, a woman who is more educated than her. Her husband's second marriage hurts Fusina very deeply. What the author conveys with Ali's treatment of Fusina is that, for the educated woman, the conditions that made polygamy operable in the past are not sustainable in the present-day Ghana. As Ace's grandmother says, why marry two or more women if you are going to go through such contortions? No man who had more than one wife lived with any of the women on a permanent basis. Women could always stay with their own people, or you build each of them a small house if you were man enough. It is selfish and wrong for Ali, who lives as a couple with his first wife Fusina, to go and marry a second one who also expects him to be available to her whenever she needs him. In the end, he is unable to sustain the marriage because AC, the second wife, cannot put up with its almost perpetual absence. The problem with Ali is that he wants to be a polygamist in a situation in which polygamy would not work. It is true to say that for all three women, time, which has brought them professional achievement and success, seems to have stood rather still for their husbands, who are therefore insensitive to their needs and feelings. While Opokia and Fusina chooses to remain in their marriages, AC is less compromising. She decides to leave her marriage. The place of motherhood in the life of a modern Ghanaian woman is another issue raised by Ama Ata Aidoo in her novel Changes, and once again, the issue finds its sharpest expression in the character of AC. Opokia, with 4 children, and AC with 3, seem not to find motherhood so difficult a responsibility. This is probably because both women, despite their education, are prepared to live within the traditional rules regarding motherhood. However, AC is different. Perhaps the author, Ama Ata Aidoo, puts her in the novel to demonstrate to readers that, contrary to the popular belief, not all women enjoy motherhood, and not all are cast out to be good mothers. AC decides that she has space in her life for only one child, and though her husband would have loved one more, she stops at one. Furthermore, she is only too happy to deposit that one child with her mother-in-law. Obviously, she's an African woman who does not believe that a woman's primary function is to be a mother or to be in a kitchen. We can say that AC Sechi represents a new kind of Ghanaian woman through whom the author explores a number of issues related to the educated woman in contemporary Ghana or Africa. Her character in the novel raises questions like, should motherhood occupy so much of a woman's life? Is polygamy a viable alternative for the woman who seeks liberation from the oppressive demands of monogamy? Is Ghana and Africa prepared to see marital rape as a serious crime against women? Is the independent woman doomed to a lonely life? Are the Ghanaian men prepared to make the attitudinal changes that will ensure happiness for educated women? All these questions will be answered in our analysis. Let's go on. Let's now take the summary of the novel Changes by Ama Ata Aidoo. The novelist, Ama Ata Aidoo, begins her novel by ushering us into the life of the central character, AC. Notice how the novel begins by introducing us to her work. This shows that her work is considered paramount to her life. AC is a government official who works for the Department of Urban Statistics. On this particular day, AC is really upset because, in the absence of the secretary, whose job it is to handle their travel arrangements, AC is expected to do this work because she is a woman. She has to drive her old car over to the offices of the Linga Hideaway Travels in order to make some business travel arrangements. Her old and unreliable car stalls on the way, and she is subjected to hostile jeering by taxi drivers, all of who are men, shouting the usual obscenities about female drivers. She meets the head of the company, Ali Kunde, a charming and handsome man who is later described as the best advertisement for the company because of his multiple national identities. The two are immediately attracted to each other. Ali offers to drive AC home after promising to take care of all the necessary travel arrangements, but AC declines this offer because she has her own car. One morning, Ejanowa, the daughter of AC and Oko, listens to the sound of her parents fighting while she eats her breakfast. In the bedroom, Oko and AC instigates yet another fight about their marriage. Oko is angry that AC refuses to have another child and that she spends so much time at work. Oko says that his friends are beginning to laugh at him and he is considered a laughingstock among his peers. Angry with his wife, he grabs AC and forces to have sex with her. Rather than apologize for his action, he grabs the bed sheets and walks out of the bedroom. At work, AC contemplates the fact that what just happened to her could be described as marital rape, even though no such term exists in a local dialect. She decides that she is going to leave her husband on this basis. Ali Kunde is already married to his childhood friend and love, Husseina. The two have known each other since they were young, and after developing a friendship, they finally got married. Following their marriage, Ali moves to London to complete his education. Husseina, on the other hand, gave up her career and education in order to become a mother at Ali's insistence. In spite of his marriage to Husseina, Ali and Ace's relationship grows and they soon become lovers. Ali disappears for some time and shortly after he sees Ace again, he proposes to her. After discussing the potential complications with family and Ali's wife, Ali offers Ace a wedding band. Following the proposal, Ali begins to spend more and more time at Ace's house, showering her with love. Ace discusses with Opokia her upcoming marriage and a thought on polygamy. Ali, on the other hand, takes one of his co-workers to visit Ace's family to discuss the marriage according to proper tradition. He is rejected because he fails to bring along a respectable member of his family. Instead, he brought a co-worker. When Ali finally approaches his family and asks them to speak on his behalf, they are first reluctant, but eventually they consent on the marriage. Ace's mother and grandmother are disappointed in the decision to get divorced and become a second wife, but in the end, they had to accept her decision. Ali returns to Ace's family with his elders and the marriage is approved. It is a simple ceremony, and afterwards, Ace returns home alone. On New Year's Eve, Ali rushes over to Ace's house before returning to his family. Shortly after, Oko appears with their daughter and the two men begin to fight. Ace grabs Ejanua and runs out of the house to Opokia's place. She tells Opokia and Kubi everything that happened. Kubi goes to Ace's house and finds that both men have left. He checks on Oko at Oko's mother's house and finds that he is only slightly injured. 6 months later, Ali takes Ace to Bamako, his home village, for a vacation. They have a wonderful time. Ali's family, after initially rejecting Ace, now accepts her. Their relationship begins to change, though after they return, Ali starts spending less time with Ace. Rather than spending time with her after work, he drives his new secretary. By the end of the year, Ace feels completely abandoned. She is alienated from her own daughter and spends Christmas alone. She takes sleeping pills to help her get through the day. Finally, on the New Year's Day, Ali appears at Ace's house, driving a brand new car. The car is a present he presents to Ace. Immediately after giving her the car, Ali drives off. Ace drives the new car to Opokia's house. Opokia is so jealous and taken aback by the new car that AC cannot begin to tell how she really feels about the present and her marriage. She offers Opokia her old car. At the start of another year, Ali spends more time with AC but quickly falls back into his old habits. He sends her gifts from all over the world in order to compensate her for his absence. 3 years into their marriage, AC finally tells Ali that she cannot continue to be in such a relationship with him. 3 months later, Opokia finally goes to AC's house to take away her old car. She is too excited about owning a car to share in AC's sadness. After Opokia leaves, Kobe arrives and searches for his wife. Upon seeing that AC is distraught, he hugs her and then begins to kiss her. Before Kubi could take off his clothing, AC backs away from him and he leaves. AC and Ali remain close friends and occasional lovers, and they never got a divorce, even though Ali continues to have an affair with other women. In this next chapter, we shall be discussing the role of AC, Opokia, and Fusina. This discussion will be focused on marriage and professional life. From the beginning of the novel, it is clear from all indication that AC Sechi's career ambitions conflict with her husband's conception of the ideal African woman, and this has led to the frequent fights in their home, which has greatly affected their only daughter, Ejanua. Lying in bed with rising desires and watching his wife get ready for work, Oko reflects on the behavior of his wife. She has unilaterally decided that she does not want any more children and has put herself on those dreadful birth control things. He himself would have preferred one more child, but has not been allowed a say in the matter. He feels AC is not affectionate. Despite his love for her, she is a great cook who does not cook. She leaves the home very early and returns very late. Therefore, their home is run by house help. AC is very much respected by her colleagues because of the quality of her work, but her professional efficiency does not take its toll domestically. She leaves the house virtually at dawn and returns at dusk, often bringing work home. She is often away on conferences to Geneva, Rome, Addis, Lusaka, Dakar, and other places. And as Onko contemplates on his ambitious wife, who obviously places her career above all duties she owed as a wife, he asks himself this question: is AC too an African woman? AC's attitude to her husband on the fateful morning is one of cold and irritated impatience. Her dismissive responses to her husband's complaints are what infuriates him into raping her. In his view, she does not show enough respect nor pay enough attention to his plight, which is the plight of a husband whose wife's career is more important than his feelings. In his view, here he is, craving a little attention from her, and all she is doing is ignoring him and preparing to go to work, all the while responding cheekily to his appeal. And why should she pay attention to his childish behavior? The bungalow in which they live in is hers by virtue of a position in the civil service. She also earns more money than he does. She does not need a husband to provide for her. Their situation is a delicate one. Unlike a woman who is interested in keeping her marriage intact, AC is one who does not seem interested in saving her marriage. She gives the impression that she considers this marriage an impediment to her career advancement. There is no question that AC expresses attitudes that challenges the traditional concept and practice of marriage in Ghana. It is for this reason that nobody, except herself, understands why she wants to leave her husband. Her mother and grandmother, for whom the dissolution of a marriage should be based, as tradition expects, on tangible reasons, simply cannot fathom what AC's problem is. First, they ask her if her husband beats her, and she replies by saying, "No, Nana." They further went on to ask her questions like, "Or does your husband smell? His body, his mouth, Essie could not help laughing. She replies again by saying, "No, Nana. In fact, for a man, he is very clean, very orderly." So then listen, does he deny you money, expecting you to use your earnings to keep the house, feed him, and clothe him too? AC replies by saying, "Nana, we are not rich, but money is not a big problem." What is the problem? Both her grandmother and mother really screamed this time. If AC's own folks do not understand her reason for wanting to divorce her husband, Oko's people are even less understanding, let alone sympathetic. Oko's mother and sister have never considered AC a proper wife and have been trying all along to get Oko a different woman. They believe AC is wrong to be content with just one child, something they consider a dangerous situation in case something happens to the child. The sisters are particularly hostile. They believe that AC has turned his head with a love portion, which makes him indifferent to his folks. When they hear that her salary is bigger than his, they claim that this is why she does not respect him. Because of this hostility, AC does not bother to discuss with them her proposed divorce from Oko. They will simply blame her as an arrogant woman who is impossible to satisfy. Perhaps the one person from whom AC expects a measure of understanding is her friend Opokuya. After all, Opokuya is an educated professional who, like AC, has to put up with the over-demanding roles of being a wife. Her response, though, to AC's proposed divorce is less than sympathetic. In trying to explain her decision to a friend, AC finds herself examining more closely her reasons for the separation. She confesses to herself that the marital rape is only a convenient pretext. She decided to feel assaulted, and from then on, her mind has seized on the assault and held it. Part of his fascination for her was its legal usefulness. She was clever enough to know, if only subconsciously at this stage, that it will come in handy should she ever decide to apply for a proper divorce. AC's rape does not occur in a serious abusive context, and her attitude of holding onto it as an assault, just in case she needs it in the court to make it seem the actor is not seriously offering it for consideration as a grave assault on the woman. The rape may have helped AC make up her mind, but her disaffection with her marriage seemed to have other causes. As she continues with her soul searching prior to explaining her decision to Opokuya, it is revealed that her main problem was that she was easily bored and is generally unenthusiastic in her relationship with men. She realizes as she reflects on her failed marriage that what she felt for Onko in the first years of their marriage was gratitude more than anything else. Gratitude that, in spite of herself, he had persisted in courting her and marrying her. Obviously, AC does not consider gratitude a good enough foundation for a lasting marriage. Love would have been a better reason, as it tends to be for the modern woman. In contrast, her grandmother considers gratitude a good reason for marrying, perhaps more substantial than love. But how long will love last for a woman? In the end, AC is compelled to tell Opokuya her reasons for wanting to leave her husband. It is not another woman. She again confesses, and when she asks that, she sometimes wishes Oko will have an affair with other women. Opokuya finds AC's ideologies childish and petulant when her friend complains about Oko resenting her for the time she devotes to her work. Opokuya finds Oko's attitude a natural expression of his love for his wife. The two friends agree that men are really not interested in a woman's independence or intelligence, and that all men want to do with intelligent and energetic women they claim to admire is to have them permanently in their beds and kitchens. They both agree that marriage is a threat to the intelligent and ambitious woman, and that no husband is reasonable when it comes to demanding his wife's attention, and that there is no such thing as a happily married woman. The two friends agree on the terrible burden of abuse and loneliness that seems to be the lot of the single woman in Ghana. But their strategies for dealing with their burdens are different. Opokia is prepared to make a kind compromise that will make her marriage survive. Ace's position is however more uncompromising. Ace's seemingly unyielding stance on marriage finally provokes an unsympathetic outburst from her friend, who demands rather unkindly if the progress she has made in her job is adequate to recompensate for her failed marriage. AC is in the end obliged to ask in uncertainty and frustration. Why is life so hard on the professional African woman? Clearly, even her best friend and fellow professional woman is not entirely sympathetic to Ace's cause. But perhaps the reader is meant to be more understanding. After all, it is true that the professional woman in Ghana is more encumbered than her male counterparts. In addition to her husband, who clings to his patriarchal privileges, such as demanding that his wife cooks for him and makes herself available on demand for his comfort. Another major encumbrance for the professional woman is motherhood, and typically, AC handles motherhood in her own modern fashion. She has decided unilaterally that one child is all she wants. Her child, Ojanua, is 6 years old when the novel opens, and we first see her tearfully listening to another of her parents' frequent fights. She contrives to spill the breakfast just to get some attention, but of course, the unhappy child receives no attention from her feuding mother and father. We next hear of the child after the separation of her parents, when we are told that she is staying with her paternal grandmother until the end of the school holidays. AC, however, decides that her daughter can remain at her grandmother's, where there are many other children for them to play together. But as the narrator points out, the truth of the matter was that if Ojanua had been still at the bungalow, AC would have felt at least a little funny bringing Ali in. Soon after virtually throwing Oko out, AC, the mother, is clearly too happy to deposit her daughter with a mother-in-law she does not even like, so that she can have her own freedom and privacy to entertain a man who at this point in the story is only her lover. Presumably, even a mother has needs. She makes it a habit to visit her daughter every Saturday, but unhappy about the tension arising from the attitude of her mother-in-law, she tells herself that if she could only stop herself from missing that child so much, she would just stop going to that place. And this is a strange thing for a mother to say. To her credit, she is unable to stop herself from missing her daughter. Soon after her marriage to Ali, she is obliged to whisk her crying daughter away from a bungalow to Opokia's home when Kubi unexpectedly appears with a child and gets into a fight with a new husband. The incident ends happily enough for the child, who gets to spend a fun-filled Christmas with Opokia's children. But it is clear that AC tends to place her own pleasure above the happiness of her daughter and is not very considerate and cannot be considered a good woman or a successful mother. AC's first intention, soon after parting from Oko, is just to have an affair with the handsome and charming Ali, to whom she is passionately, if a little surprisingly, attracted. You will not think that a woman who is easily bored with men will fall so deeply, but with Ali, we find a different twist of events. This is amazing. It's the same AC who has to be literally forced to make love to her husband. Now, she readily gives herself to Ali and is willing to even cook and do other things that she was not willing to do in her previous marriage. However, this love could not last the test of time, as Ali's perpetual absence always makes her bored. Let's now shift our attention to Opokia. Opokia is a friend of AC, who is also a professional. To begin with, there is a difference in temperament. AC, as we notice, is rather severe and something of a no-nonsense character, especially with her first husband. She gives the impression that she's a woman who allows nothing to stand in the way of a career advancement. Opokia, on the other hand, without being any less committed to a profession, approaches her work with humor and without the impression we get from AC of uncompromising single-mindedness. Perhaps even the choice of careers says something about their contrasted characters. Opokia is a nurse who works with people who are in need of care and attention. AC, on the other hand, is a statistician who works with numbers. It is noticeable that whilst AC's relationship with her colleagues, who are unfortunately all male, seems to be rather resentful, Opokia is popular with her colleagues, who enjoy and challenge some of her unusual utterances. Then, there is a difference in their sizes. AC, as we recall, is slim, with a body that seems to have a strong effect on both her husbands. Opokia's proportion was more generous. Compared to AC, Opokia was definitely fat. Not that she cared. She moved like lightning and laughed through the days of the year. Anytime the question of her obesity cropped up, she made it clear that the fact that she was fat had nothing to do with not knowing what to do about it. She had been a state-registered nurse and a qualified midwife for nearly 15 years. In those years, she has concluded that those who are interested in women, especially African women, losing so much weight must be the same ones who are interested in women, especially African women, cutting down their birth rate. Her argument may appear to be little unexpected, but it is obvious that Opokia has little interest in following such fashions as are the dictates to Africans by Europe and America. She is happily and uncompromising of herself. Opokia approaches marriage with the same relaxed outlook. She considers her marriage a good one and is prepared to make the compromises she considers necessary to make the marriage work. Unlike AC, who unilaterally decides that she wants only one child, Opokia discusses the matter with Kubi, her husband, and together they agree on the number of children they want. She has made a conscious decision to trust her husband and not to waste her time and energy worrying about where he might be up to when he is not home. Not because she does not care in the way AC does not care about Oko, but because worrying about such things was unnecessary for her. Her attitude is eminently practical, and presumably, this is the attitude that many Ghanaian wives have to put up in order to sustain their marriages. Opokia, however, worries about her husband's daily late return from work, anxious about his safety, and the problems she will have to go through should anything happen to him. In her view, the only sad point about her otherwise good marriage, as already mentioned, concerns her husband's refusal to let her use his car for the many errands she has to run on a daily basis in the service of their family. Kubi's argument for depriving his wife the use of the car are unreasonable and childish, but Opokia is usually obliged to give in to them, not wanting to prolong arguments. Her husband's insensitivity to her inconvenience angers her deeply, but she has learned to live with that anger. On many occasions, she wants to get around Accra by unreliable and overcrowded public transport, while he keeps the car ostentatiously parked at the premises of his office. As a result, she feels profoundly unappreciated, and she conceals her frustration so well that when she complains, her colleagues accuse her of being spoiled. It is only in a conversation with AC that Opokia gives serious vent to her frustration. It becomes clear in this conversation that, as different as they may appear, the two women share common unhappiness, and the cause of both women unhappiness is their unsympathetic husband. Also, another instance in which we can consider Kubi an irresponsible and insensitive husband is when Kubi was supposed to meet his wife at the hotel at about 5:30 to give her a ride home, and he didn't show up until 9 o'clock. And what was his reason? He totally forgot about his wife's schedule. All her husband does when he eventually shows up is to offer a lame excuse about a meeting at the office, which Opokia angrily ignores. Such is the loss of the happily married woman in Ghana. Let's now shift our attention to Fusaina. Fusaina's unhappiness begins in London. Soon after her arrival in Britain, Ali, who has obtained his degree, begins to study part-time for his master's degree, even though he has not told his wife about this in advance. However, while he studies, Fusaina remains at home in their one-bedroom apartment, doing housework and admiring the catalogs. Before long, she is pregnant with a second baby and is soon enough nursing a baby and taking care of the first child, a son, as well as her husband. Fusaina is denied the opportunity of pursuing higher education. When they came back to Ghana, Fusaina is made to quit her teaching profession because her husband has attained a degree and is earning enough money to make it unnecessary for her to go back to the school. To keep his wife busy, Ali Kunde sets her up as a shopkeeper, operating from a well-stocked kiosk. Fusaina finally admits that her 2 years break from teaching while in London has made her rusty as a teacher. But it is Ali who insists that she should leave her profession. It is a waste of time, he said. The hours are long and the pay is terrible. When Ali turns Fusaina, the trained teacher, into a kiosk operator, he lends support to what AC and Opokia say about what men really want to do with the intelligent and powerful women they marry. They make them quit their challenging jobs for something less demanding intellectually. The most cruel blow for Fusaina is when Ali, without warning, tells her that he is taking in a second wife, a woman who is more educated than Fusaina. This pains Fusaina a lot. However, what can she do? She is also prepared to stay in her marriage, therefore, she has to compromise. She has also known that Ali has affairs with other women, but when he announces his intention to marry again, the question she asks is, she has a university degree. The question takes Ali by complete surprise, and he asks, what has that got to do with it? Fusaina responds by saying everything. Fusaina has not forgotten that she had the opportunity to pursue higher education in England, but was obliged to stay at home and be a housewife and a mother. Nor is she unmindful of the fact that, having left the teaching profession altogether to become a businesswoman, there remains no further opportunity for further studies. And yet, being educated, she attaches value to education and feels cheated and hurt that Ali is marrying a second wife with a university degree. It comes to this sad conclusion that because the husbands are too selfish to respect their feelings, choosing instead to cling to patriarchal privileges at a time when the educated woman has different expectations altogether. Thus, as in the case of Opokia, the husband is not ready to move with the times and appreciate the fact that the new woman he is married to expects to be regarded differently from the traditional African woman. Ama Ata Aidoo uses her novel, Changes, to highlight the challenges the modern educated professional Ghanaian woman has to negotiate as she seeks a satisfying companionship with men. Ama Ata Aidoo ends the novel with AC alone and wondering if she will ever find an adequate companionship. The fear of loneliness and the scorn with which single women are treated in the country seems, according to the author, to be the reason why many women seem trapped in unhappy marriages. In that sense, AC is perhaps truly courageous in boldly rejecting two marriages in which she is unhappy. The time has clearly not yet arrived in which the professional woman may generally be happy in the country. The novel as a whole seems to raise the following issues. Men are generally to blame for the unhappiness of their wives, as they do not seem to appreciate the fact that their wives expect more consideration than their own mothers did. They did not realize that the times have changed. The novel is, however, not fair in his treatment of men. Oko appreciates, even if unwillingly, that he is married to a new kind of woman and is prepared to make some adjustment. However, his wife is not prepared to make any compromise. Therefore, we can say with all certainty that Ama Ata Edo's Changes is a feminist novel which offers to the reader's attention on the various ways in which the educated Ghanaian woman is denied the happiness which should come with her education. Ama Ata Edo puts the blame squarely at the doorsteps of Ghanaian men as husbands who are unwilling to give up the advantages of outmoded cultural practices. Thus, Ace's husband, unable to come to terms with his ambitious wife, decides to show her that he is the boss by raping her. Opokia's husband treats his hardworking wife with insensitivity, and Ali, who believes that women are only made for his enjoyment, is totally incapable of appreciating his wives having emotional needs of their own. All this put together, the novel seems to say that maybe one day, women will find happiness with their Ghanaian male partners, but that day is not today. Therefore, women are waiting for this change. Therefore, educated female professionals are waiting for the series of changes to make their lives happy. Thanks for watching this video. Please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe and share this video.